Yes, the people, welcome back to the third video. The second video was about recovering from coronavirus or flus. It's going to happen every year, so make sure you check that out, my advice on that. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about being a lender or even a borrower and why you should just cut that out completely. So I hope you enjoy. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. All right, so I want to talk about this issue just because it's quite common in the community, and especially when you're growing up and you don't have much money yourself, and a lot of people always come to you for money. And the quote goes like this, something like this: "Be neither a borrower nor a lender, because one loses their money and the other one loses a friend." Now, what do we mean by that? If you're a lender and you're always lending, you're bound to lose your money. In fact, you also lose a friend as well, because the people you lend to, whether it be family or friends, let you down and you just want to cut them out just because of stress and headache. In terms of the borrower, you're definitely going to lose a friend. This is going to affect your relationship. Even if you have difficulty getting this money, you've lost a friendship. So yeah, let's go into it. In terms of my experience, growing up, when I was really young, didn't have a job, but I was always saving money. I've had my grandma, my mum, all my aunts, some of my I say school friends, not like close friends, borrow from me, and I was always lending money. I've never really borrowed money just because I've been quite self-sufficient, and I've had the savings. I thought, okay, these people are in need. They need, they need it for something. They said they'll pay back. They pay back a little bit more on top, especially as family. They're quite kind, and so I'll always be lending them money. And honestly, I've dealt with so much shit. It got to a point where I was almost like the local bank, whether it be friends or family. And I decided, do you know what, stop this, because it's not good for my health. It's not good for my money. And I'm gonna come on to now, like, why do people even borrow in the first place? Now, most of it is, in my experience and what I've seen, is people living above their means. They have a specific salary, I don't know, whatever their job is, whether they are working at a bank, whether they're working as an accountant, or even if they're working in Primark as like a cashier. Now, when your life is like in these situations, you should never live above your means. Even if you're an accountant, doesn't mean you hire out or buy out 2 cars. That's above your means. People need to stick to their means. If you can't afford to go to this fancy restaurant and it means spending your whole weekly wage on it, don't go. It's not a big issue. But I think a lot of people have pride. They want to go with their friends. They want to do X, Y, Z, and they spend now and think later. Funny quote my friend would always say is, a lot of people trying to live a champagne lifestyle with lemonade money. And you need to stop. If you got lemonade money, spend it on a lemonade lifestyle. Lemonade tastes good, so that's one of the things. The second thing is addiction. A lot of people suffer from addiction, whether that be drugs, alcohol, gambling, jewelry, even the addiction of buying fancy things. There's an addiction to that, and this addiction is not good. And to feed that addiction, they need money, they need resources, and they'll always come to you. Another thing is, some people habitually know, because they have these spending sprees, is that they know they can borrow, and it becomes almost like a very bad toxic habit. So they'll always come to you, ask for money, borrowing and whatnot. And so these are the 3 main reasons that are key to why people borrow. Of course, there's other situations and issues, but we're talking about people who are always borrowing. So of course, there's situations where actually people are genuine in that they need money and they will pay it off. So when do you actually lend this money? Because you don't want to go to a situation where you completely don't lend or borrow. And I think that's the best place to be. But in life, shit happens, right? Some family member or someone needs a bit of money because something's fucked up. I think there are times when you could lend money or you could give benefit of the doubt, and that's when someone's never ever really has asked for money before. Of course, situations can change. They can become a crack addict, or they can get an addiction to something, or become a habitual borrower. But in general, you've known them and they've never ever asked anyone, or they've never had a reputation to borrow money. And when they do ask, you fully understand the need of that money, where it's going, why are in the situation they are in, and also solution to how they will make sure they won't be in that situation again. Let's say, for example, rent arrears, right? It's an important situation, they need it, obviously it's not an addiction, and you want to help them, but also understand what made them get to that point. Are they living above their rental means? Did they decide to spend that money elsewhere when they should have really given it to rent? So once you understand all that and you're convinced, then lend. The second thing I say is, when you lend, always lend way below their asking. So someone might come to me and say, hey, I need £1,000 or £100. I'll give them 10% of that. I'll say, look, this is all I have. When can you pay me back and whatnot? And coming on to that is, when you do give the money, set out conditions and requirements. So for example, if I lent you money, we agreed to pay in 3 months time. Okay, here, I want you to pay me back in 3 months time. And these are the conditions, and if you don't pay me back, this will happen. If they don't pay you back, either you up the stake, or you just say, look, I don't want you to ever talk to you again. Let them know, let them be aware of what the consequences are. And then when you lend money to people, if you've lent to before has paid you back, you haven't had to chase for it, you haven't had to ask for it back, and they have good intentions and they pay you back, then of course in your head you would look at that person and think, actually, I will lend money to this person again. And I've got friends who I would actually openly lend to, just gratefully they're not the kind of people that have their finances in a mess. So the next section that I want to come on to is how to say no. Now, this is something I found difficult, but over time I've learned to kind of navigate and circumvent situations, because when people come to you for money, there's always a sympathy and a sub story, and it's natural in human nature for us to be helpful. No matter who we are, it's natural for us to be helpful. The second thing is, the people that come to us are usually quite close. When someone's asking or you to lend them money, already you know there's an element of trust between you and them. So when it's someone close to you and they have a sympathy story, it's hard to say no. But you need to learn to say no. For me, when I got to a point where I was literally the family bank, it was hard to say no. First step I took was, I said to everyone, and I made it clear, from this day forward, I am not lending any money to anyone. Doesn't matter who you are, what you need it for, find it from somewhere else. The second thing is, because like I am, and like a lot of people are, you're quite sympathetic. So even if this situation comes and someone comes to you like, oh, look, please, I need this and this, and I really need it, there's no one else to go to. The best way for me to get out of that way, because they kind of knew I had money, was to say, turn around and say, actually, I'm in debt. I'm indebted to someone. I've borrowed money, and I need to help pay that off. So I need to help myself. Most of the time, this person who's come to you, their sub story will stop, because they then have sympathy with you, and they just say, do you know what, it's not worth going to this person, and they'll cut the crying and the tears completely. The third way to say no is quite harsh, but you just completely cut away these people. Whoever they are, keep them at arm's length distant. I've had school friends and the reason that I should call them school friends, haven't had the life together, borrowing like small bits amounts, and just a headache to get your money back. So I've decided to actually put them in a box. These aren't people that I want to be associated with. I don't really want to hang with or play football with. So I kind of distance myself away from that. And they'll have my number, but it'll only be limited to text. If they ring me, probably wouldn't pick up. So these are 3 ways to kind of say no. And it sounds bad, but the reason why I'm talking about this topic is, in general in life, anyone can use this, but I find it particularly in underprivileged areas, when you're around loads of addicts, loads of people who don't have their life together. These are the people that will come and prey on your weakness and kindness, and use their sympathy stories to borrow money from you. What happens is, when you lend this money, their negative situation, whether that be in debt to something, to rent, to a drug addiction, whatever, it spreads onto you. This negative energy, once you lend them the money, spreads onto you. Why? Because you're going to spend a lot of time and energy chasing that money. They'll tell you it's next week. What they do, they say to you it's next week, and you come next week and it's not there. And then they say the next week, and there's an excuse, and they'll keep delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. Eventually get to a point where you're sick of it, and you just say, do you know what, keep the money. And that's their way. That's their way, because they know eventually you will get sick, and you won't even chase the money, and you cut them off. They're fine with that right now, just because it's a situation they're given in the hand that they've been given. Some people just don't give a shit. The second thing is you're gonna have a loss of friendship by lending this money and chasing them, and all this negativity that comes into your life from chasing them and hearing all these lies and excuses and pushbacks. You're gonna look at this friend and say, look, I really used to like you, and you were great, and I used to like you for X, Y, Z, whether we were football mates, hanging out mates, or whatnot. But you have to just cut them off, and you think of the worst of them, and it's such a bad place to be. It then changes your perception about trust and lending money and whatnot, because you've been burnt. So when a genuine person comes to you to ask for money, when it's a genuine situation, you might question it, which you should. But in general, it's just a negative burden on your chest, and you've lost money, you lost that kind of trust as well, because it's dented your trust, in a friend that's lied to you and over again, because that's what these borrowers do. And these are just negative situation that you've now taken onto your shoulders, because you simply said yes out of the kindness of your heart to help someone who you thought was struggling. Now, I want to end this video in just saying that, of course, not all people are habitual borrowers or crack addicts, or gambling addicts and whatnot. But generally, the telltale signs are that when someone's always borrowing from a range of people, because when you say no, they'll go on to the next person. When they're frequently borrowing, and when they're difficult to even communicate with once they've got your money, it's not worth it. Just don't ever lend, in my personal opinion. You save yourself all the stress, you save yourself money, you save yourself friendships. And the best thing you can do is actually find out the situation, help them in non-monetary ways. So if you know that they're in rent arrears, there's ways to kind of schedule that rent payment back, and also figure out how to make sure that they don't get back to that situation again, whether that be budgeting advice and tips. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. Generally, guys, my honest advice is don't ever lend to anyone. I stopped lending to my family completely, to my friends completely. Only one or two, but these friends will never ask. And I realised that the people that never really ask are the people that have their head screwed on. They don't have any of these side addictions or bad spending habits, and they tend to be screwed on. We never even borrowing or lending from each other. And I think the last thing is to take away from this is if ever you're going to give just to give, and not as a lending money. So if someone comes to me and asks for money, let's just say, for example, I never have the money, and I really need to help them, and I really want to help them, I'll give without expectation of getting back. I'll just say, here's XYZ, you keep it. Don't even take it as a loan or borrowing. It'll just save you a great deal. If they're a good person and a good friend or good family member, and they've got that money back, they'll pay you naturally. And that's it. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, share this content, because it's going to be helpful. It happens to the worst of us and the best of us, and you'll always encounter it. So I've gone through the ways, why people even borrow, why it's a bad thing, when to actually lend money, when most times to say no, and what are the effects of being a lender. Honestly, in 95% of the occasions, just say no. 98 even. But yeah, peace out, guys.